It's 1013 ROE FM, WEVI, and Bush T in the morning, and we have officially arrived at my favorite time of a Thursday morning, right here on 1013. All right, it's episode 6. All right, we are here with the Department of Health, and today's episode 6, is about raising Gen Z and tips on parenting. All right. So we're going to help parents today better understand and support Gen Z through open communication, emotional awareness, and adapting parenting strategies that honor their mental health needs. With me today, I have the Department of Health, none other than Madame Giselle Ramos. Good morning. How are you?
Fine. Morning.
All right. And I also have Tariq from Greater Changes LLC. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. It's a pleasure to have you guys back in here again.
Absolutely.
Yes. We had an awesome episode last week, and we're going to just double dutch and jump right back into it. You know how we do get started, right? So I'm interested about this specific episode because we've talked so much in previous episodes about what it looks like for the struggles with mental health, why we haven't been having the conversations, what it looks like in our community and otherwise, right? And now we're getting into how we can show support, what it looks like in the home, as well as how parents can assist their young Gen Zers, as well as themselves, with some of the struggles that pertain to Gen Z in our, or mental health in our community,
Yes.
right? So, good morning, good morning. All right. So, where was I? We're talking about parenting strategies when it comes to raising and understanding our Gen Z population, what I like to call intentional parenting. So first, before we even tap into that, who is Gen Z?
Oh, okay. Gen Z is the population from 13 to 27 years old. They're the ones that actually are, in advance with technology and so forth. It's like when you spit them out, it's like they're ready for technology.
Yes.
So those are the Gen Z population. Those are the ones that advocates for their feelings, have a voice out there in the social media for one another, and pretty much just surrounding social media on a whole and technology on a whole. So in a sense, that's what Gen Z is.
So give us a little bit of the age breakdown for anybody that might be listening for the first time. Who exactly falls into Gen Z?
Well, those junior highs to high schoolers, 27-year-old. So it's from 13 to 27 years old.
Okay. All right. So now that we've identified who is the generation, right? We're not just only speaking about Gen Z. It applies to everybody, but that is our focal point because that's where we're getting the information from. So they're the first generation to grow up entirely in a digital age, which shapes how they connect, learn, cope, and express themselves. They value their mental health, normalizing therapy and self-care. They speak up about social injustices and inequity. They resist labels and reject either or thinking. Authenticity rules. I can agree with that, right? They value vulnerability and realness over perfection, which takes us, I think that in itself propels us so much further than where we used to be. But for them, gaming isn't just entertainment, it's a social space where friendships happen, where they have achievement and control, where they can express their identity and creativity, and it's a mental escape from real life stress. Memes, emojis, GIFs, and TikToks are full sentences to them, and they do definitely express themselves as such, right?
They do.
In DMs and texts, not phone calls, because it gives them time to process and respond. Many are more comfortable opening up digitally than face to face.
And I'm glad you said, it gives them more time to respond because in my experience with my two Gen Z daughters, one in particular, we would be, going back and forth in text or, pretty much expressing ourselves. And for that Gen Z population, they will leave you and read. So if you're a Gen Z parent, just expect to know that they're not going to respond in the manner that you want them to respond, or how shall I say it, in a way that we are accustomed to. So
a little closer to the mic.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So for that Gen Z population, it's kind of hard sometimes to communicate with them because of the fact that back in the days communicate physically and they communicate social media wise.
Right.
So they depend so much on this technology to have their expressions out and, be able to say who they are and so forth. And that's what we have to adapt to. We can bring our generation as well in, but at the same time, it's, we have to adapt to them if we want to have that connection with
That's true. That's true. So it puts you in a position where you have to kind of self-reflect and not so much be so firm on what communication to look like, but being able and being judgmental, right? And a lot of things that we're not willing to open up to in past generations, we automatically label it as disrespect.
Correct.
Which is a major gap in how we communicate, because you not answering me is disrespect.
Correct.
Whereas they might be trying to figure out what the answer is for themselves or how they want to frame it. But we're so used to being in that space where it's like, when I talk to you, you need to answer me, ask a question.
But that shuts them down.
It does. It does.
That aggressive behavior.
It used to shut us down. So, and just because we responded differently didn't mean that we weren't affected the same way. You want to add to that, Tariq?
Yeah. I think so. When I have conversations with anybody from that generation, like, there is always a clear difference.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
It's always clear.
Right.
I think they, and we kind of hinted on this the last time, they have tapped into a conversation about mental health from a really young age. So like, a lot of the things that we as this generation has grown accustomed to with communication and parenting, like, they're like, no, like, you can't yell at me, like,
right?
You can't threaten to use violence,
right?
Because I didn't clean my room,
right?
Like, and when you say it out loud, it's like, I'm gonna beat you if you don't clean your room,
right?
What? Like, that's a bit outlandish.
Corporal punishment,
for
being dirty.
So it's like I can remember instances where, like, I've had clients and the complaint from the parent is, this child won't clean their room. And no matter how much I yell, like, they're not doing anything.
They do not care.
And you take a step back and it's like, well, let's find out why.
Yeah.
Right.
That isn't normal. That's not typical behavior. And at the end of it,
it's not.
No, it's not.
No.
It really isn't. Like, it isn't normal for a child to just say, I ain't cleaning my room at all, no matter if my.
Well, they might not say it, but the actions are loud.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of times,
right.
And in the cases that I've worked with, it's like, it's anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Like, this child has had a hard day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such a stressful day. You think about all the comparisons that happen from the time you wake up and you log on to Instagram or whatever social media platform. You go to school, the comparisons are still there.
Correct.
You have this generation that they've grown up on social media. They've grown up with technology.
Right.
I could still remember the sound of the dial-up. Right.
You and I both. I think we're gonna die with that.
They have no idea
what that is. Right.
Like, if even when you reference a phone, like, if I do this and say I pick up the phone,
they don't get that reference. You're so right. Like, what is that? No, like, right.
You don't hang up phones. You hit end.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just press a button.
We used to do this, and then I'd be like.
Right. So, like, it's completely different as to how they respond. But they also grew up, like, not learning the same like
disciplines that we had.
Discipline and, like, the skills to regulate emotions in real time.
Do you feel like it's a differentiation in resilience?
I
because that's what I tend to rationalize it as, that, like, you guys are soft, you're not as resilient as we used to be.
So I think I tend to move away from resilience as a word that I use that often, just because I think we tend to use resilience to mean like
to idolize like strength and stuff. Right.
Like, it's like, this person is going through a lot. Like, this isn't a normal thing for a person to experience.
Right.
I think that. So there's a book called the Anxious Generation.
Yes.
They go into describing that children moved away from play-based learning, where, like, you're interacting, engaging with somebody right in front of you, and there are skills that you learn right away. Like, you learn how to, like, pick up on social cues and physical features, and, like,
right.
This person's face is upset. Maybe I should stop.
Yes.
But online, you don't see that.
Yeah.
It's just a message.
There's a disconnect. Correct. Right.
So that you take that into real life, and now you have a huge disconnect in how you communicate.
Yeah. And they interpret whatever message is out there within their own tone and so forth. And sometimes it doesn't mean that way, but you don't have that physical reaction. You can't see, those words, You can't see those words or anything. So it's kind of hard for this population growing up and for us to adapt to their population.
Right.
Because I struggle myself, as a parent of Gen Z, to understand my two daughters. I struggle a lot. So trying to learn how they navigate, life and how they express themselves and so forth. I have to step back, like Tariq said, step back and look at how I can better approach it in order to shape that connection with
them. To get through. Because if you have a wall, then how are you actually getting through?
Because I've grown up with tough love. Back in the days, we grown up with tough love, and this generation, they're not going to tolerate it. Like Tariq say, that tough love mentality. You have to come to them with a different approach because they're more emotional. This Gen Z population is more emotional, and you don't want to affect those emotions in a negative way.
Right.
So in order for us to, as parents, communicate with our loved ones, we have to have a healthy relationship. Be open-minded, not judgmental. Listen to them. Be able to give them guidance and suggestions and so forth, rather than, telling them, hey, you got to do this. In an aggressive manner and so forth. So,
I love that. And these are great points. So I want to take us a quick break. But before we go to the break, we're going to listen to one of our youth voices from episode 1, giving her perspective on Gen Z and mental health across the generations. And then we're going to double dutch and get right back into this, right? So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. 101.3 ROE FM and Bush T and Gen Z. Keep it locked.
I would say that we are the most in tune generation so far with our mental health. I feel like we believe that our mental health is above all else. Some real life mental health struggles Gen Z have, especially in the Virgin Islands, I would say is bridging that gap. Although we are very in tune with our mental health, I'll say in the continental US or in general, the culture is our mental health is above all else what's important to us. However, in the Virgin Islands, I feel like growing up, getting to that level of prioritizing our mental health is not a priority. I feel like everything else is put above that. And I feel like eventually you come into your own and like, hey, my mental health is this. I know I need to focus on this and this and this. But in the Virgin Islands, there's definitely still that stigma in the Black community of you need to get off that phone, or you need to go outside and play, or you need to find something better to do. And that's why you feel in the way you feel, and not because you might have a mental health illness, not because you need therapy, not because you having trauma that is unresolved, not because things are going on within your home, but because you not doing something the right way and you always on that phone, or you always letting other stuff influence you. You just need to do it this way and that. So I think that is a big struggle, is us telling adults or older generations the issue that's happening with our mental health and it not being taken seriously because the older generation in the Virgin Islands don't believe in that.
It's 101.3 ROE FM, WEVI, and Bush Tea in the morning, and we're back yet again. It's Thursday, so we're on episode 6 with Department of Health, and we are double dutching and navigating this highly anticipated topic, tips on parenting for raising Gen Z. So before the break, we heard a short clip from one of the youths in our community. And she was expressing what her experience has been like with mental health and navigating the pros and cons with other outside generations outside of Gen Z, right? So do you guys want to weigh in on some of what she said?
Yeah. I think, so the first thing that stands out, I remember back in like 2014, 2015, where like the conversation was about millennials.
Oh, yes.
Right? So like this feels so...
We're a hot topic, yes.
Full circle. Because she mentioned that the last recording, she mentioned that her experiences are invalidated because older generations, like, they don't view mental health in that way. And then I'm like, she talking about me. Right, like this is us. This is that generation.
We.
Right? That's our generation.
Right.
So, like, we do have a role to play in becoming more literate about mental health and understanding way more of these things so we could express ourselves and validate those emotions. But it just it's an interesting place to where like stigma and everything else connects.
Yes.
Because like the reason why a lot of us view mental health as like a thing that we could diminish and disregard, because that's what we've been taught that.
Because we were disregarded and diminished. So it was like, we're not here to talk about your feelings. To this day, I have a lot of friends when we're navigating certain things, that is the first thing we go to is like, okay, our feelings aside. But your feelings are there to kind of warn your nervous system about something. They're literal, like signals for the brain. Like your body is giving off. If you don't know how to read those things, then are you really catering to your own needs? But we put a block on those things in order to put a precedence on how we show up,
correct,
how we are perceived, and because that was of such great importance for us in regulating those things, in order for us to navigate conversations with the older generations before us, in order for us to be respected or even seen on a basic level, it was like you had to come off with a certain level of well-roundedness. Otherwise, it was like, oh, okay, something wrong with that one, just don't mind them. And it's that disregard. And we present with that so much because that is what we first knew. Even though we are cognitively aware that it does cause damage because we've been damaged, we're also lacking in the area of finding something else to fill in that space with.
And
it's familiar ground.
The fact that how society used to see, individuals back then,
right?
That when we were, coming up, we had to, like you said, go a certain way. Our character had to be in a certain way because so much pride within the family.
Absolutely.
Come from a last name. You had to act, and your mannerism has to be in a certain way. And
that's right.
It was so hard for us back then that we couldn't even open up and say, "Hey, mommy, I feel in this way. Daddy, I feel this way."
Yeah.
How dare
what's
you?
Actually happening?
Exactly. When you out,
right.
These type of behaviors that you're seeing today, it was like, oh no, it's like a hiding thing. Like, I don't want to go and seek help, or, they don't want anyone know that I have a child that is dysfunctional or disabled or something of that nature.
Or struggling in any way. In any way. It brought shame to the family. Yes. You were a topic of conversation. Yes. Right.
Exactly, yeah.
So a lot of things went ill-resolved or ill-catered to, or even wrongfully labeled.
Yes.
Because of things like that. We have people that are in jail that belong getting mental health treatment. Correct. Because we did not have the means of saying, okay, this is what this looks like, and it has progressed to X, Y, and Z. This person doesn't need punishment, they need assistance.
That awareness was not there.
Right. Now, only when murder is the case that they gave me, right? Only when that's on the table, then people start to say, well, let's check their mental health.
Exactly.
And
when it's to the extreme.
Right. When the damage is already done and somebody else didn't have a choice in the matter, now it's like, oh, well, maybe we can consider these. But
we send them for evaluation to see their mental health rather than trying to see what is happening with that individual before it reaches to that stage.
When the flags are yellow and not red. Right.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
All right. So we noted that sometimes, as a parent, it can be frustrating to feel ignored when a teen is glued to a device. What's a respectful way to ask for their attention without creating conflict or shutting them down emotionally? Asking for me.
Because, like I said earlier, I'm a Gen Z mom.
Right.
And I come from the Department of Health as well. I'm as well. So I can speak from it.
A little closer. I can pull up your mic just a little bit. Right there. Okay. There we go.
From the two ends, as a parent, how I used to get my child's attention is pretty much letting them know, like, hey, in the next 5 minutes, I would like to spend some time with you.
Right.
Rather than telling them, put on your phone. I want to talk to you.
Right.
Why are you spending time with me? I find that we have to beg for their time. And we have to do it in a manner that will not allow them to shut down, in which, like I said earlier, this generation shuts down a lot. So you have to make sure that you're aware of their emotions,
right?
And not affecting it in a manner of where they will never open back up again.
Right.
So you have to be able to set some boundaries, like we said in the episode before, you set those healthy boundaries and let them know, like, hey, you've been on this device for a long period of time. You might, give me 5 minutes of your time, or let's go here, and to whatever social gathering or whatever. If they like the beach or whatever, you
make sure you identify that that's a time to put the phones aside.
So you have to,
dinner table time, things like that. You really do have to block out times where it's like, okay, none of this is allowed.
Be consistent with
and be consistent with it.
Because that's how you will connect with your child. Right. You're consistent. So when they actually see that pattern, ever so often, they will, adapt to it. Because they adapt to a lot of stuff. This Gen Z population.
That's so true. And the fact that a lot of them are being raised by millennials, I don't know, sometimes it's a blessing because you're coming from a generation that understands your plight to some degree, because we were the test dummies for a lot of this stuff.
Yes, unfortunately.
We were the petri dish babies that they figured out a lot of this stuff with, right? And not just in a commercial way, but just in how we react to it as well. A lot of studies were done on when they say, "Oh, studies show," guess who's the studies? Right?
One of the things too, when you think about where we are and like how attention is like captured with these with this generation, the same book that I referenced earlier, The Anxious Generation, he says that we, the society, gave children one of the most powerful drugs and just walked away.
Literally.
Because in what the research shows is that the same areas that light up when you get a dopamine hit from
cocaine. Because that's a study I saw.
Or like any fun experience.
Right.
Like you get the same
thing from the phone.
And the tech developers, like these things are built. Like these aren't like accidents. Like
right.
They're teams that are dedicated.
Decided.
What are the ways to put what can we put in this platform that like the Facebook UI, the feed, one of the worst things in the world. Like, it never ends.
It never ends.
Like, you could scroll for the rest of your life.
Yes. This is the song that does it.
And we, as a society, like human beings were never meant to take that much information in. Right? So when you take that away from a child and you say, okay, now let's go outside and play.
Right.
No, first of all, it's hot out there. Like, I'm going to...
And they can't relate. They're not getting excited. When you tell them to go outside, they watch you like it's punishment.
To do what?
There's nothing out there for me.
Like back in the days. And back to what you were saying, Tariq, with the social media portion, like those on Facebook, they gravitate towards these likes. So the more the likes,
validation.
It's like more of validation. So of course they're going to definitely glue to that phone.
The danger in that is if they're getting that validation. Yes. And the danger in that is if they're getting that validation before they were taught their value for real.
Exactly.
So they have a much harder time separating themselves from it. It's almost like as if I don't have that, there is no value because I can't correlate that. But, I feel like as millennials, we kind of dropped the ball because we got so comfortable with how changes were progressing that we forgot, hold on, we're not affected the same way because our rooted, grounded beginning, our core beginning didn't look anything like what theirs does. Correct. So when we get to these impasses in their teenage lives and we're like, hold up, I can't relate to you, I can't understand you. Yes, because at the core, at the root, you're two completely different makeups. And a lot of these kids, their first friend was an iPad or a phone when mommy was working or cooking or needed them to just keep still for 2 seconds. And the more we have these single family households or even single parent households, you find that more and more because it's not so much what works, it's what's necessary in order for it to work.
Correct.
And we make those bends in order for us to just keep it all flowing, but there's a price to pay, and we're paying that as we're seeing today.
Yeah, that disconnect. You will see that you don't know your child unless you follow them on social media.
Listen, and even then, they're a different child there than they are in school, than they are with their grandparents, than they are, and
you will never know how your child is.
Never.
Or who your child is.
A school monitor taught me that, not necessarily about my child, but they made a post, and I said, oh my gosh. He said, trust me, the children that y'all know at home are not the children that we know.
Exactly.
And I said, you know what? Because I was never the same child at home that I was in school either. I was free to be my personality and allow that to develop, which is what you want.
Yes.
In a healthy way.
Yeah, because there's nothing like scrolling on any social media app and like another profile of a child of your child is there that you have, because like oftentimes like there's a one that follows the parents and then the one that's like completely separate.
That's
Completely
yeah.
separate. And like you look at it and like, I don't know who this person is. Like this person don't talk this way.
Yeah.
It's very different. Very,
Right.
very
And
different.
you find out they have vocabulary that you were unaware of.
Exactly.
And fluently so. I was
They're interested
like,
in.
what? That's a
And
word?
especially things that they're interested in and so
Right.
forth that you wouldn't even have thought about saying.
Correct.
Hey, let's do X, Y, and Z. So that's how I learned my child.
Yes.
She may be listening. But Mama, yes, I tap into your Facebook, so I'm following you.
I am on everything. So,
I will
yeah.
be able to know
Mm-hmm.
what my child like, how I
Correct.
can relate to her, how I can, spend time with her
Right.
and so forth. Well, the two of them, I keep saying her because I more tap into the older one.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's how I connect with my two daughters.
So, what does parenting with emotional connection actually look like, especially in our culture, which often values discipline and being strong? I just adding into where we're already at and giving this another element to it, because that being strong is how we tend to show up, because that's how we were raised. That resilience shows up again. And a lot of times we meet that impasse because they're looking for empathy, compassion, understanding. They want that soft spokenness, and we show up like, hey,
Yeah.
tough love.
Yeah.
You know?
Soldiers, yes.
Right.
And I think a lot of it has to do with like we have to unlearn a lot of these things.
Yeah.
We have to be okay with identifying like, oh, I've been wrong in the way I've done X, Y,
Right.
and Z for a while. I think there is a going back to how we the premium and the priority that we place with resilience.
Yes.
We tend to say things like, "Yeah, me give something to cry for."
That we glorify strength,
Yeah,
Lord.
like, it's always like you have to be strong.
Yeah.
Even in the way that, well, I have to be strong and tough on my child because
Yes.
it isn't going to be
To
soft
be.
for him. But if you really take a step back from that, it's like, well, if you know that the world is going to be tough,
Right.
let's give this child a place to be soft.
Correct.
Yes
And a lot
and
of us
no,
don't do
because if I give them the place to be soft without the balance of understanding how to navigate that as well, I am also doing them an injustice. And that is the impasse that we tend to get to as parents, because now this is where we do not have another generation to look at to help us navigate. We have
Correct.
officially crossed over into what no man's land, because we're the first to be here as parents. They will navigate it as parents themselves too, but they will be using us as their example. So not only are we laying the foundation for the future of how these things are even seen, understood, and navigated moving forward, but we're also not going to be excused because we didn't know better and we didn't have an example.
Yeah.
So it's such a rough space and a rough patch, because once we know firsthand that once the damage is done, it's done. The only thing you could do from there is heal. And we don't want to continue the damage, but we're in fact creating all kinds of new damages by tiptoeing around the conversation and the facts of what's taking place.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think I said a place to be soft, and I think I want to pull that back.
Okay.
It's not so much about being soft;
Mhm.
it's about having a space where they are safe.
Yes.
I like that.
Like the safety to be able to talk about a
Yes.
thing that bothers them, to say, hey, like you did this thing yesterday and it made me feel X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Right.
Open communication.
Know that you
Yes.
have that communication, because very often, even now, one of my stepdaughters, when they go out and they have conflict,
Mhm.
like they know how to deal with it, because like this is not how we would deal with this at home.
Home.
Like we would have a conversation. Something
Right.
here. I don't even think this person has the capacity to have the conversation.
Right.
Let me take a step back.
Right.
And that directly comes from being able to have like that safe place for her to speak.
Mhm. Right. And being even emotionally aware enough to say, okay, well, this isn't a space right now.
So with that instance, what would you tell Gen Z parents?
Correct.
How to approach that?
That.
The first thing, and is usually how I start my sessions, we have to know how to breathe.
Ooh.
We have to know how to apply mindfulness.
Mhm.
So when we get amped up, the areas of the brain that controls
Right.
managing the emotions, the problem solving, decision making, all
The
those things
anxiety.
shut down.
Completely.
If-
Fight or flight.
So if you're in a space where everything that helps you manage a situation shuts down,
Right.
then you're always going to be reactive.
Yeah.
I even think that when we look at like corporal punishment,
Mhm.
I don't think it. I could be wrong. If you ask a parent, when you beat this child because they did something wrong, were you calm? Chances are no. You
They're
upset.
in rage.
I have a very unique take on that.
Mm-hmm.
My father experimented with my sister.
Oh.
This is the second time today I'm bringing him up. Daddy, I'm sorry. But yes, so my father actually actively practiced not hitting us when he was angry. He would wait days.
And talk about
I think that was worse. I was like, just give it to me when you're mad because he would wait days and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Get the licks. Because it would be in a very only on your buttocks. He would hit you only on your buttock, right? And he would tell you how many you're getting and what each one for.
Oh no,
I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It was, mind you, covered all the bases. But he was never angry, and the reason being, I don't know how he did it, but he was very deliberate about it because my father happens to be about 6'3", 400 plus pounds. So dealing with small children, small girls to be exact, his 2 fingers were enough to traumatize me. So he never used to want to implement that discipline, but being a single father at the time and dealing with 2 young girls and you trying to implement this force and this order in the household and whatnot. Of course, if we fighting or we just downright ain't following the rules. It was like, okay, this is what you get discipline for. He will cuss and rant or whatever while he's upset. Move off from it. And when we think all is good and well and dandy, all right, couple days ago, this is what had happened and this is what's going on. And he used to tell me when I became an adult, he told me, because the Bible said, if you do not address it, you're telling the child unconsciously that it's okay and it's harder to break after that. So he was trying to do it right, but without the trauma and without the anger and without the pull it bringing you down, or because when you're angry, you don't always have the best things to say.
Nope.
It don't matter who it is you're talking to.
You can't take back your words.
And you cannot. Right.
So once it's out there, you can't tell me not to feel this way when you don't make me feel this way.
Right. Right. But he wanted the focus to be on the correction and not on the emotion. So I respected that as an adult when I became a parent myself. I hated it when I was under. So because he used to be like, well, you can't just forget. So
you adapt that with your children?
I have to some degree. Right? But what I've learned is my temper might be a little bit worse than his, because days later, as soon as we bring it up again, I'm upset all over again. So I don't know if that's the female in me or, you understand, to be that reactive or whatnot, because I can compare and see where he was more grounded with it. But this is me now trying to adapt something that he created for himself that worked for him. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because of my emotion to it as well, too. Right.
Especially knowing that he's this big guy. And so
right. He was more afraid of actively, he hit me too hard, he break a bone or something, or he bruised us badly. And, first thing people are going to see is the bruise and look at this big, hefty guy. So for him, I'm a single father, I have to be safe.
Yes.
So, but that's just an example, right? So that emotional connection looked like reflecting on self, understanding where my limitations are and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to be okay with. And until I can get to this space, I do nothing.
Yeah. And then acknowledging what is developmentally appropriate for that child.
For that child in the
because children push boundaries. That's just what they do. They
right.
want to see where
by design.
Yes, how far you can
that's
right.
How much I could get away with.
But if my response is like a hard fist to make this stop, then all that teaches a child to do is to do it better for next time. Like
correct.
I'll be sneakier.
Yeah.
Right.
Get that punishment.
Right. Right.
Yes. In their own convenient way.
Exactly. Okay. All right. One last quick question before we cut to a commercial break, right? We're going to double dutch this one real fast. So, what should parents avoid saying when their child is being vulnerable and sharing that they're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or down? Just keywords.
Avoid sharing the fact that that doesn't matter.
Right. Invalidation. So dismissals and invalidations.
You could be depressed about you got a house, you got kids.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm guilty of that one because I really don't want to know what is this big stress today, but they do have things that that affect them. Yes, it is at every level.
Yeah.
Right.
They go through their ups and downs just like us, not because they're not paying the bills or anything like that. They go through their emotions that they can't express in the manner that we can.
Right.
So just be a safe space for them. Allow them to express themselves without judgment, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to know what's going on in your child's life.
Right.
And if that person is not mentally there, you want to be able to seek help for them. So have that open dialogue, that safe space for them, and don't be judgmental.
Correct. And
even if you didn't care about all that, right? Let's say you're a parent and I don't care about the safe space and all that. I think it behooves you to think long term, because you're going to be an old person. So you need someone to take care of you.
All right, so we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and then we're going to pick up right back where we left off. You're tuned in to 101.3 ROE FM, WEVI, and Bush T and Gen Z. Keep it locked. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad. Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
All right, and we're back. It's 101.3 ROE FM, WEVI, and Bush T in the morning, and we're discussing Gen Z. All right, we're here with Department of Health, and we're going to just get right back into it. This conversation has been absolutely phenomenal, so thank you guys for joining again. All right, so we're discussing parenting the Gen Zs, right? And we want to do it a little multi-generational as well. I'm going to read a little bit of a clip where we're going to unpack a little bit of what we spoke about already for this episode, but it allows us to go a little bit deeper into it, right? So today's younger Gen Zers in their teens are mostly being raised by millennials, as we mentioned, aged 29 to 44, who often prioritize mental health and are more likely to talk about feelings with their children. Studies show that millennials prefer gentle guidance over hard discipline. All right. Many embrace positive parenting, aiming for connection over control. They prefer peer-style communication, meaning they talk with their children, not just at them. They teach acceptance and diversity from an early age. They are more likely to say, let's talk about this than because I said so. However, many are navigating parenting with financial pressures and constraints and with dual roles as both parents and caregivers to aging parents. Gen Z parents to Gen X, parents to Gen Zers in their 20s often value independence, resilience, and many lean toward traditional parenting styles. Some may struggle with the emotional openness of Gen Z, but are generally realistic and adaptable. In the Virgin Islands, there's often a multi-generational parenting role where grandparents or extended family are also deeply involved in raising Gen Z. That means cultural values and traditional parenting styles still play a strong role. So let's start with what's happening with many parents today. Many of them are wearing multiple hats: parent, professional, caregiver. How does that affect the way they show up for their teens?
So, based on my experience as a single parent, I always, work. That when it was time to show up for my teens, I was not there,
right.
And I relied heavily on their grandma to actually raise them. So it goes back to what you were saying, the grandparents raising the children.
Multi-generational.
Because I wanted to make sure that my children are okay in the long run. So I wasn't able to connect with them. And now that I am trying to, it's like I actually missed that window in a sense of knowing who they are, what they are, and, what they like and so forth. So it's kind of a struggle.
It's a catch-22 because on one end you provided and you were there,
and I lose out on the other,
but you missed out on the other end. I saw an article like that, just to kind of tap into what you said and double dutch off of that. I saw a post where it said a lot of single parents are robbed of parenthood because they're doing it on their own. And a lot of times that means you have to make the decisions where you're needed in more than one way, but which one is most detrimental to get to the next day?
Correct.
right? So it'd be making those provisions where you have to work to provide, right? But then on the emotional, cognitive, and mental sides of things, maybe you're not there to influence their decision making or their feelings, and then there's a gap between your relationship with them. Trying to listen, there's nothing harder than trying to connect with a teenager that are already set in their ways.
Yes, and especially in the ways that you're not comfortable with.
Right.
Adapting the ways from whoever.
Or you can't relate to.
In raising.
Right,
so
right.
It's kind of,
and grandparents don't parent the way they used to parent, So that's already a disadvantage. We're going to talk about it. We're going to call our own. We can't be setting us up now. Appreciate it. You're supposed to be on our side. You supposed to help me.
That you want us to, to go through. That's the path
right.
Right.
Why are you punishing me from the back? Stop.
I think there's definitely a lot to navigate when it comes to the multi-generational piece, because like you said, sometimes the grandparents, what you grew up with,
right,
with your parent, vastly different. Because what you mean,
vastly.
What do you mean this grandchild could eat in a room now?
Yeah.
Listen.
They get away with
you almost killed me for that. What are you talking about? I mean, not literally, but yeah. Right.
But I think it is important, because you have to be able to have those conversations with the grandparent.
Correct.
Right? If there isn't an ability to set that boundary and say, hey, so I know that this is the way that you want to do things.
Right.
But it causes a lot of dysfunction.
Yeah.
When you're not there anymore and they're back in the home.
Correct.
Right.
So you have to be able to have that discussion. And it's tough.
It is.
Especially when you're depending on that grandparent to be childcare for you.
Right. Now, what happens when you end up having the grandparent dealing with the child respects the grandparent, the child don't respect you?
That's tough conversations.
Yes,
man,
it is tough. A lot of aggression and so
right,
and you're not doing it from a negative standpoint.
No,
you're doing it from the standpoint of the consequences coming down the line.
Correct.
If you continue to allow this child to do X,
right.
Y, and Z, so you want to be able to have them understand that that behavior is not healthy.
Right.
But with the grandparents, they want to spoil the child and do everything with their child, and we also have a lot of permissive parents out here.
Yeah.
Where they want the child to just be themselves and don't want to nip it in the butt type of way.
Right. They want them to navigate it on their own
and
type
they
thing.
want them to be hated
and have animosity.
To be in
yes.
with their parents and so forth. But really and truly,
friendly parenting, is that what we call it?
Exactly.
Right.
Friendly parenting, and that's not the most healthy parenting if you don't take it from the healthy standpoint.
Correct.
Some of them, look at it as, I want to go live with my child in the club with my child. That's not what we were brought up in.
Right. When that time comes, you can always navigate that. There's nothing that says that if you're strict with your child in the beginning and give them the structure and the substance that they need, that you can't have the relationship with them later on.
Exactly.
But that also is dependent on you and how much you and it foster that relationship
to the point where the boundaries comes in.
Correct.
Not because me and you're gonna have a joking time here.
Right.
That means you're gonna disrespect me, and I've seen a lot of that
boundaries
here
with
these parents that's raising Gen Z. Sometimes I don't want to intervene. Like, who you talking?
Why are they talking to you like that?
Of my child,
right.
So that respect is sometimes not there when you actually try to be a friend rather than a parent first, and sometimes it comes out in aggression where
it does.
Fighting and all of that is involved.
Right.
Because mommy let me do this last week and now she want me do it now. You have to,
which is where that multi-generational yes, which the gap in the multi-generational happens sometimes as well too, because if I'm parent and I work a lot of the time, you have my child a lot of the time, especially if it's on the weekends when they have most of their free time after schools and on weekends, right? So in those situations, sometimes things are happening that you as a parent are not even aware of. And when you become aware of it, it's been going on for so long that you automatically become the problem.
Yes.
Right? And grandparents tend to feel like, oh, well, I ain't doing nothing wrong because they don't see it from your perspective.
Exactly.
Or they may not have had the same experiences to know, okay, that's a red flag for me. I don't want to deal with that later on, much less right now. And sometimes as a parent, you put your foot down and you don't have any support.
Yes.
You don't have any support because they're busy navigated from what works for them. This is my relationship with his child. Okay, yes, you have the luxury of being a friend as a grandparent. I do not. Exactly. Even though I'm a provider and I have to show up as such, my role is this for however long it takes until they are well-rounded. Then we could be friends. Exactly. You know, because now I go from teaching you to guiding you. You're making your own decisions, but I can be a voice of reason to show you and multiple perspectives to look at things. And they respect that, correct. But when you have the multi-generational issues where this generation is stuck in their ways, this generation is trying to do it differently, and then the younger generation is in the middle, right, it comes off chaotic. Yes. And it creates disdain. Some families, this one ain't talking to this one, that one having issues with that one. And then it's even more harder to navigate when it's across the parents. So perfect example, my parents, or how I navigate with their father's parents, or their father's parents navigating with me, my mom navigating with him, X, Y, and Z. So we already come from different backgrounds, and here we are with this melting pot, and we have these kids. So when you're going through it like that, you see the gaps culturally and otherwise, because you might have Puerto Rican in you, you might have a little Santo in you might have, because there's a melting pot. So there are ways where we come together and you realize, we have stark differences in terms of how we come up because of our beliefs, background, and all of that. Right. So much. Yes. And it just creates heat. Yes, in the family. It does. You know? I mean, the friendship portion, I don't advise that. I think respect is more important than being their friend. Teaching and making sure that you have that element of respect, because if you miss that window, what I've learned from watching other people's experiences, as well as in my own childhood, watching some of my friends come up with their parents as friends, if you miss that window to really navigate that respect in that relationship, it's hard to. You're never going to get it back. Yeah, it's really hard to get that back. So, anything you want to add, Tariq?
I think we covered everything.
Everything. I think so too.
How is it raising a boy? Because I never had that experience. Right. For me, it's just females, but how is it?
So, I think it's different on two ends. One, this is my stepson, right? So there's already a dynamic to navigate there. But once the relationship is there, it's. I mean, right now in our relationship, we talk a lot. We talk deeply when we do talk. Right. And it's because we've had the foundation of having these conversations. And I did a lot of work on myself to be able to be the person that have this relationship. Hey. So if I do have to leave parents with anything, go to therapy. Yeah. Go to therapy, read some books, look at content that talks about parenting, that talks about the things that we experience as children and how it comes in as adults.
So we hear a lot of go to therapy, but can you just help for those that may be considering looking in a different direction, because we're apprehensive first, right? Of anything that we're not fully sure of. Can you please map out for our listening audience, what does therapy actually look like? Because people, you will hear the responses, I go sit down and talk to my friends. I don't need to go and talk to a stranger and tell them my business. So please navigate. What does that look like for our community? What does therapy look like?
So the first thing is, because of stigma, therapy is terrifying. Right? Like, we have this idea that this fear of being judged and your business being all over the street.
Yes. Number one.
And one of the things that I can't be a mental professional and not say this, there are providers that have put a stain on the
communities.
The therapy, right? And we have to, as policymakers and people who have power, we have to say something and stand up when those things happen.
Right.
That's a barrier. So that's number one. What therapy looks like and why it's a little different from speaking with a friend. You are getting a perspective from someone that isn't necessarily invested in it. Right? Like they don't see the other side of everything else. Right. So there's a objective nature. There's a objective nature that comes
unbiased.
Yeah, that's a better word. Unbiased. Being able to have a space to just talk, because you might tell a friend something and that friend can't unhear that. Right? So if you come to them with a problem with a relationship,
all vents lead to other rooms.
My God. But when you speak with a clinician, like we're in a room, and this clinician's job, at least how I view therapy, is to guide you to what it is that you want to actually achieve.
Right.
So I think that's the best image for what therapy is. And the biggest thing, if you're a government employee, if you're a GVI employee, therapy is 100% free for you.
Oh,
there is no copay. Like therapy is free for you. So take advantage of it.
Correct.
In this climate, we don't know if that'll be.
Man, listen, so much things changing. You better get it.
And lastly, therapy isn't always the end all be all. Like,
right?
You can read and get information and use other alternative sources to be able to do it. Maybe having a place to check in with a therapist is not a terrible idea, but I don't want to ever make it feel like therapy is the only way that healing happens.
Yes, correct.
Oh, man. And guys, with that being said, we truly did touch on everything. You guys are amazing. That's our show for today. I hope you got some awesome takeaways. A huge thank you to our guest, Giselle Ramos, Tamara Ramos from the Department of Health. She's not with us today. And to our special guest, Tariq McMillan from Greater Changes. Remember, to our listening audience as well as our viewers online, remember you are not alone. If you or someone that you know needs support, please call or text 988 at any time, or contact the VI Department of Health Behavioral Health Division at 340-774-7700 on St. Thomas, 340-712-0096 on St. Croix, and 340-776-6400 on St. John. Join us next Thursday, same time, same place, 9 a.m. right here on Bush T and Gen Z for yet another episode, Real Talk in the Morning. Until then, be sure to take a breath, take care of yourselves, and remember, it's okay to talk about it.